Hey, what is up, guys? Big Gamer out here. How are you guys doing today? I'm super, thanks for asking. So, if you're anything like me, you are wondering what on earth Microsoft is going to do at E3. Now, there's been some, Twitter leaks recently and some murmurings about Gears 4, and obviously the beta's been out, and people have been talking about their exclusives and what they're going to do hardware-wise, and what competitors are doing. And I just wanted to address all of these points with a level head, an open mind, and really let's get to the bottom of what's realistically likely to happen for Microsoft at E3. So the elephant in the room is new hardware. Now, Microsoft's hardware doesn't have a large install base, therefore you would believe any step they were going to take is to increase that install base and not throw the Xbox One in its current state under the bus at 20 million units sold. But with the PlayStation Neo coming out and the possibility that that might offer 4K video or maybe even some kind of upscaled 4K gaming, Microsoft really doesn't need another excuse for people to buy Sony and not buy Microsoft. So the chance of a new hardware reveal is high, and I think if you think they're not going to mention new hardware at this press conference, you're crazy. They will. I think that's almost nailed on. It's just what form that's going to take. Now, the first thing they could try is what Sony did with the PS4. Now, that was to say, guess what, guys? It's all about games. It's all about looking after your wallets, delivering you the best games at affordable prices. Let's not get caught up in bells and whistles. And the Xbox One could literally just be re-released in a slim version with an overclocked CPU, GPU, and literally just slide out the door and do enough to kind of recover its spot there in second place. Or they could go completely on the other side of things, and they could come out with a hardware revision similar to the PlayStation 4K, where they trump the specs, which are impressive of the PS4K, but to be honest, there's no new hardware going in here. If the Xbox was to actually stick a whole new GPU in their machine and say, do you know what? Okay, this might not be, this might isolate some gamers, but we're going to push cutting edge and we're going to go after that cutting edge market. I think they would probably lose as much business as they gain, but they might gain relevance in the long run by going after the hardcore enthusiast market and really pushing cutting edge graphics with a new GPU. And then there's the option of going Xbox 2. Now, nothing says a business is in trouble more than cutting a kind of console cycle off really short like that. Kind of similar to what's happened with the Wii U, even though, to be honest, it's by the time it's cut off, it's going to be almost as long running as the Super Nintendo was. It does feel short, and cutting the Xbox off now, even shorter, would smack of panic a little bit. But on the hardware side, Microsoft has to understand that with AMD bringing Polaris, I mean Pascal looks great, but with AMD bringing Polaris and its ability to integrate so well with DirectX 12, which is obviously a massive push for Microsoft, not having one of these kind of new 14 nanometer chips and not being able to run tasks in a non-linear fashion is going to hurt them in the long run. This is an opportunity they do have the ability to take control of, and the ability to launch a new Xbox, completely new lineup, and being able to give out the kind of performance that we're going to be expecting from the new round of AMD cards would be something that literally cannot be touched by Sony at this point. With the size of their install base, they wouldn't be able to take the kind of risk. It would be unlikely Nintendo would be able to match it with their machine, despite in what I believe is that they will be that the new Nintendo console will have GPU horsepower similar to that of R9 390. I think they are AMD based. I think they are going with a cut down version of the R9 390, and I think that will be the most powerful machine unless Microsoft really pull one out here and go say a major hardware revision of the Xbox 2. The other elephant in the room is for VR, and let's be honest, it's really hard to get a Oculus Rift right now, and trying to get a consumer version 1 for less than £1,000 from a scalper is very difficult. The demand is far out exceeding the reach of the Oculus at the moment, and people are saying why is this? It's sort of parts shortage and stuff. But with the money Facebook have got, could a part shortage be something to do with a possible relationship there with Microsoft? Now, if they were able to produce a unit that could have been compatible with a hardware revised Xbox One, I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft says they want 1 million units and they want to launch it alongside Windows 10 and they want to launch it alongside this new Xbox One. And I mean, let's face it, guys. Right, the Oculus PlayStation VR is good. It's fantastic for what it is. It's fantastic for the price. But I don't think Microsoft can be allowed to miss the party on this, and I don't believe HoloLens is in a consumer-ready condition yet. I think it will be shown again. I think they will wow some people with it, and they will use that to take some of the luster off of the other press conferences. But let's not beat around the bush. I believe, bringing a Xbox-ready Oculus to E3 would be a massive boon for them. And then, thirdly, obviously, we've got to consider the games. Now, with the big hitters that are going to be there are mostly going to be in Sony's corner as far as the third parties go. You're probably going to see the likes of your Call of Duties and your Titanfalls and your Destinies. But Microsoft has to back its exclusives. Now, we all know that the leak's already out there. Gears 4, we expect it to be part of the event. It's launching, just a couple of months after E3, after all, just a few months later. We expect it to be a major part, maybe even kick off the press conference. I also believe Crackdown is another one that could kick off the press conference. They've not shown a lot of the single-player side of that game yet, and I think that could be another one. They really need to make sure that the Crackdown game is feature-rich and not go to the way of Street Fighter and the way of Hitman and strip this game bare. This needs to have on and offline co-op, I believe. I believe it needs to have this great multiplayer server-based destruction, and I believe it needs single player as well. And I think Microsoft needs that to be a hit. I think it needs to get more than 80 on Metacritic. I think it needs to sell a couple of million units. And I think they need to put a lot of backing behind Scalebound. Now, Platinum's been struggling. They've been stretching themselves pretty thin, trying to get some, their Turtles game and their Transformers game. They've been kind of going to Activision cap in hand and doing this work with their IPs, with the intellectual properties that they have licensed for. And they've been knocking out very competent games to get paychecks, but the rate they're doing it makes me think they don't have the resources to sustain their big projects. Now, I'm a little bit worried that Microsoft might have pulled or is thinking about pulling funding from Scalebound, but what I would say to them is you need your exclusives more than ever. It's a very unique game. It's a game that Sony is not going to be able to rip off, and Platinum do something other developers don't necessarily do. They bring very, very tight, unique gameplay. And I think they need to push Scalebound big. And I think they need to announce that ReCore is still coming and maybe even show some of the first gameplay from that. Because I think every exclusive counts at this point. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them flirt with the idea of maybe going cap in hand to Valve, extending the olive branch over the Windows 10 games thing and trying to get maybe a Left 4 Dead 3. That would be huge. with the popularity that game gained in the years after its release, was far outstripped any popularity it had initially. And I think this game at this point is deceptively large, and I think also on the terms of Windows 10, it wouldn't surprise me if Microsoft says, look, we're integrating Windows with our Xbox, especially this new Xbox if it comes, and we want to give PC developers a greater chance to get their games cross-platform, Windows 10, Xbox One. We've seen it already. They've tested the waters. Quantum Break didn't perform very well on PC, technically, but it gives people two platforms to release on, and I believe we'll start seeing some of those mid-tier PC games start to make themselves not just one way from Xbox onto PC, but then from PC onto Xbox, and I think they will look to increase their catalogue size that way, which they have to. Listen guys, we're just about wrapped up with this video, but Microsoft needs to play to its strengths. Its strengths are Windows 10, its strengths are its PC business, its strengths are the upcoming exclusives it has that they've not been pushing hard enough, and the ability to surprise. With a small install base, they have the ability to rock the apple cart, and believe me, they need to rock the apple cart. Alright, cheers guys. If you like the video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Maybe we'll talk about one of the other guys. Cheers.